The Adidas Boston 12, 250 plus miles deep. Is this going to be my trainer of the year? Let's discuss and find out. So before we get into the video, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're already subscribed to the content, thanks so much. I love you guys a lot. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Strava for all sorts of other updates. Without further ado, let's begin. Specs for the shoe, somewhere up here. And the initial thoughts of this shoe and just some general awareness for my type of running style is that I don't typically, in the year 2023, even in the last maybe 2 years, get a shoe past 250 plus miles. And I don't know if it's as a result of my running style, my running form, the materials that are being put on shoes nowadays, or just the overall marketing of products that are being released nowadays in today's market, where it's better to sell the product cheap and get it, recycled within like a month's time. But the Adidas Boston 12 might be the first shoe in a little while that has gotten past this point, which is interesting news because it also gets me excited, because now we can talk about some more things that happen with the shoe and get more into the feelings of like what's happening with the carbon plate, what's going on with the foam, what's going on with the insole of the shoe, if I can like even, pull it out, which I can. So we'll talk about this piece too. So yeah, this gets things really exciting for me as someone who wants to talk about this product. So yeah, this is the bottom of the shoes. As you can see, this is my left foot and here is my right foot. So first things you'll probably notice is that even at 250 plus miles, the Continental rubber on the shoe is in great condition. And I say that with actually a lot of confidence, mostly because of two things. One, I think with the 250 miles I've put on this shoe, at least 30% of it now at the second half of this shoe's lifespan has been on a treadmill because of the weather, and I've been like mostly running on the treadmill with this, in addition to having like, this runner's knee kind of symptom the last couple of weeks. Running slower, so not having as aggressive of a form, also helped preserve the life of this shoe, I guess you can say. So as a result, that's kind of what we've got here going on, is partially that, and also partially a really good choice of materials that are not really taking a beating here, and it's quite noticeable, and it actually makes me really happy to see that the outsole is in such great condition. And like even in the areas of interest, like in my left foot, it would be more or less like the center patching and like the outside of the shoe here. Really great shape. You can still see a lot of the tread. Maybe up here it's got a little bit of shine from like the treadmills when you run on them, because again, the treads on the treadmills don't really get changed out very often at like a public gym like the one I go to, versus like a college gym, which took care of its equipment a little bit more. So that type of wear is going to be seen a little more, which is like the marbling and the debris of that treadmill onto the shoe. So that's something worth noting. And then again, on this shoe, the area of wear that I'm paying attention is to the outsole right area, and it looks great. It's definitely taken more of a beating, and it has more of, I guess you can say, some cracking in it if you were to look at it probably from this angle. I don't know if the lighting even works from this side, but from my end I can kind of see it here, like sunsetting. Maybe if we do this, for example. But the point there is that the rubber is still intact, not really breaking into multiple pieces or anything like that. And I think a lot of that is going to be contingent to what happens when I start running outside during the winter months as I train for Tokyo. Like, will this rubber hold up? Is it going to be a real pain in the ass to run with? I guess we're just going to have to find out, right? But at this point, with 250 plus miles on a treadmill, it's very consistent as a shoe. So it's not the world's fastest shoe I've run in. It's not the slowest shoe I've also been in. But if I need a shoe that I can trust to get me through a run without having any sort of ankle or knee soreness on my body, I'm probably going to look for the Boston 12. Again, it's because the shoe has great, I guess, comfortability is a starting point. Also has great drive into the ground, so if you need a little bit of a speed, the Light Strike Pro with this plastic claw plates, you can say, in the shoe, work very well in tandem with the surfaces that I'm running with. Not to be too violent into the ground, not too stiff, and also give you kind of that comfortable rebound that will get you, step by step. I guess the best way to put it is that, yeah, the shoe's comfortable and it's very consistent. it's not necessarily the fastest thing I've ever run in, but if you're like recovering or you're trying to be in marathon training, you're not running fast all the time. You know what I mean? You're like putting in longer, slower workouts in order to build up that cardiovascular base that you would need for 26.2 miles. So the Boston 12 has a really good spot and a really good niche for my particular training plan for that matter. So two things that I wanted to, of course, look into, actually maybe three, now that we are at 250 plus miles, so we can really kind of dive into this, is first, and we'll look at the foam. What's going on with our stuff here? And I talked about this in a video previously as to like what the heck was going on with the inside Light Strike Pro area here. Because like that area keeps cracking up a little bit more, and I don't know whether it's maybe like the shoes are, clipping one another, which is not out of realm, but I feel like I would notice that if it was happening a lot more. So is this as a result of that? Is that a result of this foot maybe having like slight pronation, and as every time it hits the ground, there's just something like popping out of the shoe? It's hard to say exactly. It's not necessarily impacting the shoe too much just because of like the area as to where the damage is, but it is worth noting that this particular area of the shoe is starting to take some damage. And if it keeps chipping in, I'm wondering if the front toe area may pronate some more due to this, kind of getting caved in as if like carpenter ants were eating into the shoe, and then we have some sort of, cavity, which every time you run into it, it kind of sinks. And even with the plastic plate running through the shoe, could that help keep the shoe structure where it needs to be, even if you lose this area of the foam? These are some questions we'll be answering or trying to get to before the shoe's lifespan gets to a point where it may not be manageable. So we will see about that. That's step one. Second thing I wanted to talk about was more or less the insoles of the shoe. We'll take them both out and just kind of see at this point in time how they look, just because they are quite interesting, at least for me to just kind of see for the first time in terms of wear and tear points on the shoes. So this is what I'm seeing now as I'm just kind of giving them a brief glance. You can see the left and the right foot. So I don't know if it's a design piece on the right foot, but you can see I have some like abrasion here on the like bottom ball of my foot, which I don't know what to make of it right now. It looks like it may have been like burnt off by a little bit of friction. So I wonder if at some point the right foot may have been moving in the shoe a little bit more than like the left per se. I'm trying to look at like the toe patterns to see if maybe there's like some sliding going on, but it doesn't appear like as an obvious piece that the toes may be sliding. The ball definitely looks like there's some kind of sliding. You can see there's like a frictional pattern that's going up and down on the insoles. So that might be just a self-reflection on my own form that this might be a thing. But yeah, as you can tell, there's not too much wear on the mid-foot area of the shoe, but most of the impact is in this like ball to forefoot area of the shoe, which was expected at this case. So yeah, a lot of impact in that frontal area of the shoe, and it looks like it could use some better lockdown, I would say, in my opinion, at least in these like top two textile pieces, just to keep that piece of the area locked down without cutting out too much blood flow in the shoe. In the left foot, it looks like we have like a lot more abrasion here on the side of the shoe, which could be also a thing of just that flat impact front area of the foot, and then you can also see kind of the friction area there too. So there might be some sliding going on in this shoe if you have it kind of a more of a loose tie like I have. And yeah, this is just, it's odd. I want to see as I keep going with the shoe what happens with it, because yeah, there isn't a whole lot of wear and tear in the midfoot area or the heel of this particular shoe. It's just all in, pretty much where I expected it, where it should be this like forefoot kind of toe area landing for the most part. And yeah, I don't know what more I want to say about it. I guess it's just more of like something to think about as I get to like maybe 300 plus miles in this shoe, just to what it could mean going forward. Like, is this shoe built for somebody with a forefoot strike more than it is for a midfoot because of the 8mm offset, the toe box design, the continental rubber choice in this forefoot area? Like, these will be things I'm going to think about. I'm sure like you as the viewer, you might have an idea or a glimpse of what this could look like in the next coming weeks, months. If you've had this shoe before, you probably have an idea of what's going on here. So yeah, that'll be something interesting to kind of dive into. And then I guess the last thing we'll talk about is not so much aesthetic relations, but more of like the ride overall. So I kind of touched base on this already as to like what is going on with the shoe. Like, is it getting flatter? Is it staying consistent? Is it getting better as we're at 250 plus miles? I think right now, there's no real way to sugarcoat it. Like, the shoe is great. It is holding up very well with the exterior, the foams, and all that. I do think that the shoe is starting to run a little bit, like maybe a smidgen flatter every single time, and I think it's fair to expect that at 250 plus miles with the shoe, right? And it's overall, in my opinion, better. It's got a better lifespan than a lot more shoes that I have used or seen in the market right now as a result of that. You know what I mean? So I've taken some shoes to 200 plus miles and they're like completely dead. Whereas this one, it's still going. The upper is still in a good place. The carbon plate's in a good spot. The foam and, the rubber hasn't worn off to a point where running in this thing actually hurts more than it does protect. So at this point, I would comfortably say that the shoe is starting to get its, it's starting to get into the autumn of its lifespan, but it's going to be a long autumn. Let's put it that way. It's not going to be like the world's fastest shoe at this point in time. It is going to take some more damage in places across the shoe that I would not like to see damage in. There's going to be more wrinkling on the foam, of course. The upper might start taking a beating, but at the end of the day, I can still use this shoe, and I can probably get it to at least 400 plus miles at the rate I'm going, comfortably and confidently based on what I'm seeing at this milestone of the shoes review. Now, the question might be, would I end up buying this shoe again? I suppose it depends. I still have a real loving for the Boston 11, despite the upper being not a very reliable upper, just tearing in a few places, but also being a shoe that was just so streamlined and just so fun to run in. But if I had that choice in like the Boston 12, if I had like any other daily trainer in like the Boston 12, for example, like I would comfortably choose the Boston 12 as like that daily training shoe with a little bit of speed, a little bit of recovery, just something in between because of what the shoe is offering at this time for me. So I think we're going to leave the review here. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, any personal experiences with the Boston 12 that you may or may not disagree with, just let me know in the comments. But yeah, that's kind of where we stand. 250 plus miles. It's still a go. The shoe is not performing nearly as well as it did day one, but it is expected. We're not expecting any sort of miracles at this point. And we're just going to run it until the wheels fall off, as we figuratively say, and we'll just have some fun with it. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.